10-Speed and Brown Shoe won't be seen tonight, so we can bring you a very special episode of The Gen X Files. Welcome to The Gen X Files. I'm Jim.
I'm Adam.
And today's show is all about
Nothing but trouble.
Here I go, here I go, here I go. All around the world, same song.
This movie was so bad it made me sick.
It did. It literally made you ill.
I'm going to apologize if I don't have a ton of energy today. I tried to save it for the show, but it's going to be good. We're going to get through it.
Yeah, man. We shot you full of horse steroids to try to get you...
Ivermectin?
Mm-hmm. Is that steroids?
No, I don't know. That's for ticks, I think.
Well,
or worms.
And everything else.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Well, we've come to the end of June Doom 4, is it?
Yeah, 4. Part 4.
Part 4. Revenge of the Doom.
We've gotten meta with the June Doom.
Yes. Oh, baby. So we saved the best for last. Nothing But Trouble, which is pretty much a storied film of weirdness that...
It's so bizarre. It's so weird.
It's weird, and it's sad. This movie... more than any of them made me really sad because I really think okay, so Under the Rainbow, just a dumb movie. Everything about it dumb.
Based on a bad premise.
Everything.
And then everything was bad.
Yeah, everybody's bad in it. I don't feel bad for anybody. They made their dumb choices.
Yeah.
Except for Carrie Fisher, of course.
Right. And Billy Barty.
And Billy Barty.
He was great.
And maybe Rollo or Chaco. What's that kid's name? Hondo?
Rollo Tomasi? No, he's...
What was the kid's
I don't
name?
remember.
Chonk? Anyway, Hot to Trot, same thing.
It was a bad premise,
Yeah.
but they did the best they could with it.
And those two movies, are like, tick, 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 spin the wheel,
Yeah.
let's just see what we can put together. But this movie, poor little Danny Aykroyd, man.
He is so talented. So brilliant. And it was just the cards were stacked against him in this movie.
This could have been a cult classic. This could have been...
it kind of is.
Yeah, but for the wrong reasons.
Yes, not for the right reasons.
It's not, it's not The Thing, or it's not, something that bombed and then everybody realized how brilliant it was.
Right.
It's like, wow, we're watching a train wreck.
Yeah, we're literally watching the Hindenburg crash over and over again.
We're watching another Chevy Chase phone-in performance.
There was at least 3 times I turned to Jim and I was like, this is where it starts to get worse.
But it's just so sad because I really think if Aykroyd got the script that he wanted, it made it a hard R.
Well, if he had been able to cut the movie that he wanted.
And was able to get a director. And wasn't forced to direct it himself.
Right.
Because it wasn't like I can't wait for my opportunity to direct.
No.
He's like, no, that's not my gig.
No, he doesn't. He never wanted to direct.
No, so I don't blame him at all for this. I feel like he, from his buddy Chevy Chase being an ass, to the studio, to everybody, and to the point where they literally put him in the hospital.
Yeah. Yeah, if your friend
this.
comes to you and you ask him to be in the movie and it seems like the only reason he wants to be in the movie is because of you, you shouldn't cast him in the movie.
Or if you're going to do that, then respect your friend.
Yeah, no, and Chevy Chase can't do that.
Chevy Chase is so insecure. It just sucks. These insecure dudes who lash out because of their own...
shortcomings?
Thank you. Yes. And I feel badly for Demi Moore. I think Dan Aykroyd was probably overwhelmed with all the production stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's wearing like 5 different hats.
Yeah, the studio stuff, the acting, and I think, he probably just trusted the actors to do their thing.
Yeah. No, I think he definitely did, yeah.
And I just don't think that Demi knew what to do, and she just did everything.
No, I think she was all over the place. And I don't, even beyond... Dan Aykroyd not being a director, I think he's more of a technical director than he is an actor's director.
Oh, yeah, which is odd because he's such a good actor.
Right.
But it fits his personality.
Yeah.
He's a guy that likes reading and making things and,
He likes the weird esoteric and all that stuff. Like he's, he's
on the spectrum. It's hard for you to direct and connect with people, too, sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
But I got to say, John Candy... consummate pro, comes
he's
unscathed.
So good.
Unscathed. His performance, both of his performances.
He
are great.
did more saying nothing with one character
Yes.
than Chevy Chase did the entire movie.
And same with Aykroyd. He was great as the old guy,
The old judge.
and Bobo.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, he again is a guy that gives it his all. He'll never give a bad performance.
He was great as the judge. That
Great.
is a character that has stuck with me through the years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, Taylor Negron, given the most obnoxious part ever written, does great. You know, he commits. He and that woman whose name escapes me, but we'll get
Bertilla something.
Bertilla. He and Bertilla something. Even Taylor Negron and Bertilla Damas, you know, they were game. I mean, they committed. Like, they committed.
Yeah, their characters were essentially pointless in this movie.
Absolutely pointless.
But they gave good performances.
They were just there to be annoying.
Yeah.
And Taylor, God love him, he does annoying way too well. He
does.
did
He really
way
does.
too well. So missed. But again, I love Taylor Negron. I love
Yeah.
him. I've seen him do stand up.
He's so good.
You know, he is always funny. And finding out that he is a gay Puerto Rican Jew, holy crap, man! In the '80s, that dude is one of the bravest human beings ever.
He killed it. I mean, he did. Every time he popped up in something, it was like, yes. Even if it was just for 30 seconds, it was like, okay.
But the problem with this movie, it really, I think, more than anything, is the studio's fault.
Yeah.
Because the studio got cold feet
Yeah.
and was like, no. Let's get rid of all the violence and stuff, and let's just cut the balls out of this movie.
Yeah. Dan Aykroyd wanted to make a hard R horror comedy.
Right.
And the studio said, no, we're just going to make a comedy.
Well, it's almost like Neighbors. Because Neighbors
Yeah.
was kind of a hard R comedy thriller, maybe? I don't know. It was about two neighbors. Have you ever seen Neighbors?
I think so. Is that
Not-
I don't remember. Maybe not.
It's Belushi and Aykroyd.
Oh, no.
And they're neighbors.
Right.
And it's a weird movie. Didn't do great. But it's kind of along the same lines of Aykroyd's weird sense of humor or bizarre sensibilities, which work great in Ghostbusters and, you know, and other things that he's written. But I think forcing him to direct this movie was the first step in the...
Well, I mean, he reluctantly agreed to do it, but because he wanted to make the movie. I think he thought that he was going to get a director fairly easily.
Sure.
And all his mainstays said no, and then it was like, well, I've got all this whole machine running. Like, I need to keep this going. And like, Aykroyd is the most amazing person. Like, he said, okay, then I'll just do it.
Yeah.
Because I want this movie to happen.
Yeah, and, you know, he got his buddy, Chevy, and, you know, they did great work. Well,
Yeah, they've been in some great stuff together.
Yeah.
I mean, Spies Like Us. I love Spies Like Us.
Spies Like Us is a
It's
guilty
not a
pleasure.
great movie, but it is fun.
It's also another one of those comedies that age better.
Yes.
You know, as you get older, it's
Yeah.
you know, it's like one of those road films.
Yeah,
and it's they play a couple of, you know, Chase is the goofy, handsome guy, and
Right.
and Aykroyd is kind of the more, you know, introverted gadget guy
kind
or
of
whatever.
yeah.
You know, and
Has a touch of the tism.
but it works. And, you know, Saturday Night Live, they were great together. You know, so, but we're at the point in Chevy's career where it's ending.
Yeah,
And-
he's getting older. The shtick is kind of wearing thin.
Way wearing thin.
Yeah, it's funny when you're in your late 20s and you're being a goofball, but when you're almost 50, it's just kind of sad.
Well, I think what we figured out yesterday was somewhere around like 88, 89, he lost his charm.
Yeah.
And, you know, you look at Foul Play, it's the same kind of thing, but there's always a smile on his face. There's always like a vulnerability to him.
It was like he wanted to be there.
Right, but I think the fumbling, vulnerable, sweet guy with good intentions who is a bit clumsy is endearing.
Right.
But this cigar chomping...
No, it's not. You said it perfectly yesterday. If you have Chevy Chase play an asshole, it's too much because he's so good at it.
Right, because that's probably who he really is.
Yes, that is much more true to
At
his
least at
real
that time.
Yes, yeah.
You know?
I think he's definitely calmed down a lot.
Well, you know, it's got to be hard when you're like the biggest comedy star in the world and you see your star falling.
Yeah.
You know, and he just come off a couple of sequel flops.
Yeah,
and, you know,
bad sequel flops.
And so I'm sure he was a bit desperate for a hit, and kind of seeing this one going down, instead of being like, okay, what do we do?
Yeah.
He just starts essing all over Aykroyd.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
A perfect example of that is to watch him in National Lampoon's Vacation in '83, where he was very charming and like he's the dad and he's trying to make this great thing for his family.
Yeah.
But then seeing him in Christmas Vacation, which I love Christmas Vacation, but just looking at the two characters, he's just so much more bitter and mean and not as charming in that movie. And it's just 6 years later.
Yeah. It's just him, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But this is such a bizarre film, and it's such a great kind of time capsule for the early 90s.
Yeah.
Having Digital Underground pop in at the end and,
So
and do a couple of songs, and it just, poor Dan Aykroyd, it just got so weird to the point where he's like, I don't even know how to end this piece of crap.
Yeah. What am I going to do with this?
And when it ends with the Looney Tunes cutout, we just look at each other like, what?
The reason I think he did that was because one of the movies he did just before Nothing But Trouble was Loose Cannons.
Oh, right.
And there was that whole weird Roadrunner thing in that movie, which I hated so much. Yeah. But I feel like he was in kind of that mindset.
But I also think he was hugely influenced by Warner Brothers cartoons.
Oh, of course.
And I think once the studio's like, we're going to castrate your film.
Yeah.
He was like, okay, well, then I'm just going to lean into the Looney Tunes part.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he had enough time or whatever. It wasn't enough cartoony to be cartoony, and the balance just wasn't there.
I don't think it quite played out that way. I don't think the studio really gave a shit until after the movie was done shooting.
Right.
I think it literally was the best he could come up with, and that was it. And it was like, but that's just the unfortunate part is that he needed more time to rewrite and like get a better script going.
Yeah.
But it was just that train started moving, and he was like, okay, well, we just got to make this happen.
Well, Hollywood up until probably, I don't know, 92, this was the end of the kind of studio comedy factory where they would just churn out, 10, 20 mid-level budget.
Like smaller movies that would make a profit.
High concept.
Yeah.
Let's get so-and-so and so-and-so and they're, alien busters, or let's get this guy and this guy, and they're wacky guys who drive a armored car, or whatever. It was just this weird high concept stuff, and people were just kind of getting tired of it.
Yeah. Well, it did. It evolved into the high concept stuff. Evolved into like Adam Sandler and Chris Farley and like stuff where they could literally make the movie be carried on the back of one person.
Yeah.
And the studio was like, all right, well, we know they're going to make money, so we'll make a movie around them.
Right. So it was more personality driven comedies than concept driven comedies.
Right.
So this was kind of the end, and it was also the end of Chevy Chase.
Yeah,
because people.
I mean, he literally did not have a single hit movie before this and after this.
So many bad choices.
So many bad movies.
So many bad movies. And you made such a poignant point where you're like, good Lord, this is a perfect example of white dudes failing upward because they just kept giving him comedies after comedies. And
he so obviously didn't want to be there. I couldn't imagine as a producer looking at him and going, I need him in my movie.
I don't know. I don't get it. But it sucks that we're ending out the Doom month with something that just bums me out.
I know.
I was I did not expect this reaction that it would just bum me out.
Yeah. Because there really could be a really good movie here.
Yeah.
A really good. You said it best. Could be a hard R comedy, like horror comedy, if they were up the gore and up to the dark aspect of it. This would be a huge cult classic.
Oh yeah, I mean we were talking about the aesthetics are very much like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, boneyards and all that crap.
It's got that stuff. Creepy vibe, and he was really good at the set design and creating this town of Vulcanvania. I think with people like Dan Aykroyd, I don't think Hollywood has a clue what to do with this guy.
Oh, no.
They don't speak the same language.
Right.
You have to really understand him to know where he's going or what's happening in his mind.
I think you need to let him do his thing.
Yeah.
And trust that he's going to make you money.
Right. And look, this guy, Aykroyd was kind of at the peak of his career, which is funny.
Yeah.
You know, he was not the peak, but he was in a renaissance. He was redefining himself. He was doing more dramatic roles.
Yeah.
He was doing stuff that people didn't expect him to do and doing it well.
Yeah, I mean,
Really
he
well.
he got nominated for an Oscar right before this.
Deservedly so.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, should have been nominated too for My Girl, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I thought he was great in that.
Phenomenal in that, yeah.
So it's just, again, I think this just saddens me because I think this could have been Aykroyd's Evil Dead.
Yeah, I agree.
You know,
I agree.
or
It would have easily had the same kind of cult status.
yeah,
I mean, there was enough good characters, enough good design that if they had just been able to commit more to that, then I really wish that he would release a director's cut because he has all of it. Like, I mean, I'm guessing he doesn't own any of that footage, but like, it's there. Like, I just don't think that the movie has been become cult enough for them to be like, oh, we should do what he imagined.
there's a small group of folks who love this movie.
Oh my God, yes.
You know?
Rabid about this movie.
And I get it, but you know, it doesn't. I think it's more of a novelty than something that people are like, oh, this is so cool, and this is so, you know, it's just weird.
It's definitely, you get your friends together, have some drinks, smoke some weed,
Yes.
and watch this movie.
Yeah.
Because you can easily talk through it, and it's not like you're going to miss any plot points or anything. But the visuals will be interesting enough. Yeah.
Hey, boo boo, I'm the devil.
So weird.
It's just things
so
pop up.
weird.
Anyway, let's get into it.
All right.
Because I'll just yammer on.
Take yourself back to 1991.
Ooh.
January 29th, the first major ground engagement of the Gulf War, the Battle of Khafji, begins. The battle lasts until February 1st.
Ooh, that's not very long.
No, because this was the Gulf War that lasted like 4 days.
Right.
Yeah,
We're all
because
like, we win.
They came in with tanks, and then all the Iraqis were like, we give up.
Yeah.
Thanks. Like, just come. Can you give us some food, please?
Yeah, no, it was a very heroic effort.
The last time we really showed our U.S. might. Now, February 6th, a Boeing KC-135E Stratotanker was involved in an accident over Saudi Arabia when two engines on the left wing detached from the aircraft.
Good Lord.
The pilots managed to execute an emergency landing, saving all 4 crew members aboard. The aircraft was later repaired and returned to service.
Hey, man, waste not, want not, baby.
Hey, that's Boeing, because that didn't come back and bite him in the ass later.
Yeah, it's still flying today.
It's still today. February 14th, DMA Design releases Lemmings, a puzzle game that requires the player to lead a group of anthropomorphic lemmings through a dangerous environment to an escape portal.
Oh, wow, I didn't know it was that old.
I thought it was in the 80s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I played this a lot in college, which granted, I mean, I didn't get into college until a few years after this, but I didn't realize it was 91, but I played the ass out of Lemmings.
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever played it.
It's fun. You can probably find it for free on a browser now.
Yeah.
I mean, February 15th, Nothing But Trouble is released in theaters.
Here I go, here I go, here I go.
Just in time for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, perfect date
Perfect
night.
date movie. So Nothing But Trouble starts with Dan Aykroyd, his brother Peter, and producer Robert K. Weiss attending a screening of the 1987 film Hellraiser.
Robert K. Weiss sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's a famous movie and TV producer who has worked with Zaz, the Zucker brothers, and Jim Abrams on the Kentucky Fried Movie, Police Squad, and The Naked Gun from the Files of Police Squad.
Woo!
He worked with Weird Al on The Complete Al, a collection of Weird Al's music videos, including videos that Weiss directed, including Dare to Be Stupid and Like a Surgeon.
Nice.
And he also worked on the feature film UHF.
Oh, that's a good one.
So good. The funny thing is I did not realize how much Robert K. Weiss helped form my comedy.
Yeah.
He also worked with John Landis on The Blues Brothers in 1980, where he met Dan Aykroyd, and produced Dr. Detroit in 1983 and Dragnet in 1987.
I'm Dr. Detroit. Hey, Mom.
I still have never seen that. Does he talk like that in the movie? Oh my god.
Well, when he's Dr. Detroit.
Oh, when he's the character. Okay.
Because it is a huge guilty pleasure for me.
I've never seen it.
We're definitely covering it. I love that movie so much. But he's just this regular dude that becomes a pimp named Dr. Detroit.
All right, sold.
Yeah,
I'm done.
That's where he
I'm
met his
sold.
wife.
Yeah. Well, he was a pimp.
Yes, and the other pimp's name was Mom, and he'd be like, all right, Mom.
Oh my god, that's so weird.
Yeah. I think he was like a professor of theater arts or something, so he had like all of these
God,
costumes.
you're taking all my buttons now.
Telling you.
Yeah.
You're going to love it.
Weiss would later go on to create the TV show Sliders and produce a bunch of Lorne Michaels movies, including Tommy Boy, Black Sheep, A Night at the Roxbury, and The Ladies' Man.
Ladies' Man is very underrated.
I mean, to be honest, I think The Night at the Roxbury is not bad either. Oof. It's not good. It's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah, I think you may have a little bit of nostalgia on that one.
Probably.
Because that one is so
It
bad.
It is definitely one joke that runs thin for 90 minutes.
In my opinion, it is the absolute worst of all the Saturday Night Live movies. And that's saying a lot.
We're going to have to cover it.
But I am a huge Tim Meadows fanatic.
Oh, he is so good.
And I love Ladies' Man. I think Ladies' Man is a kind of a fun little quiet comedy.
Yeah. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I remember liking it because I love Tim Meadows.
Well, Tommy Boy and
Tommy Boy and Black Sheep are brilliant.
Yeah. That pairing was great. They were like the new Laurel and Hardy.
Right.
But yeah, so 3 out of 4 ain't bad, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Look, all the stuff that Robert K. Weiss has done, I am on board with 99% of it. Sure. Even like Dragnet, which is not a great movie, but it's fun.
No, I mean, it's a very 80s take on Dragnet.
Yeah.
Or 90s. Is it 80s?
No, 80s. It was
80s. Yeah. Very 80s take on Dragnet. I mean, there's so many of these movies, and this is kind of one of them. This is definitely a early 90s time capsule. But a lot of these concept comedies are extremely of its time.
Oh, yeah.
And if you want to know what's going on in 1987, watch some of these dumb comedies.
I just love the fact that it's Aykroyd showing off like how much he loved the older stuff and like wanted to bring all that stuff back.
Oh, yeah.
Between like the Looney Tunes and the old Dragnet shows and all that stuff. Like it was, showed his love of TV and cinema.
Yeah, I mean, the guy is so creative and positive. Hollywood would crush a man like him. You know what I mean? It's He just seems like, like the Little Rascals. Let's put on a show. It's like, come on, everybody. He has this vibe to me of his character, kind of from Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
It's just
he's like, let's do it. We're gonna do it.
And he's so fascinating to hear him talk about his ancestors who were ghost hunters and.
His weird obsession with the paranormal.
Yes, because he grew up with it.
It's great.
You don't hear a lot of people growing up in the 50s that grew up in like ghost hunting homes.
Oh, no.
It's fascinating, and he just seems
he's such a fascinating person.
He also just seems like a good dude. I saw this clip. It might have been from Jim Belushi's reality show.
Oh, okay.
Because I think he does a reality show about his weed business.
Yeah, Jim Belushi does, yeah.
But I guess some supplier was waffling, or they weren't going to buy any more of his stuff. Mm-hmm. And so Aykroyd agreed to dress up like the Blues Brothers because it was like a Blues Brothers strain or something.
Right.
It has nothing to do with the business, by the way. Dressed up with the Blues Brothers with Jim, drove over to the guy, and did this whole pitch as the Blues Brothers, to get him to do the thing. And it's just, he didn't need to do that.
No, but he did it because he's a good dude.
Yeah, he shows up on his buddy's reality show, and I think he has such a soft spot for Jim because of John.
Yeah.
And he's probably like a little brother to him.
Yeah, totally.
And you can see the love there. And he's one of those anomalies in Hollywood that he doesn't really fit, but that's what makes him so invaluable and so great.
Yeah, totally. So Weiss had a broken rib, and he invited the Aykroyds to a screening of Hellraiser to get his mind off the pain. He specifically told them he wanted to see something that wasn't a comedy, as laughing would make his ribs hurt.
Okay.
So during the screening, Weiss was surprised to hear the audience laughing at Hellraiser and suggested to them that they make a horror comedy together.
Perfect.
I know I haven't seen Hellraiser in a while. I don't remember laughing at Hellraiser.
It's goof. There's a lot of like.
I mean, some of the design is really goofy.
It's not that it's like mostly the dialogue.
That's true. That's true.
Oh, hey, lady, I'm gonna cut. It's got this hyper, sense to it that I remember laughing
Chuckling.
at it.
Yeah.
You're not really laughing with it. You're more laughing at it. Right. It's so overly dramatic, and I mean, it's what's his name?
Clive Barker.
Clive Barker is so
melodramatic.
Yes. My goodness.
Yes. Peter Aykroyd is the younger brother of Dan and was also a member of the Second City Comedy Troupe in Toronto. Peter joined SNL in 1979 and was a writer and performer during the show's 5th season.
Must have been tough for him.
I mean, I'm sure he was happy that he was on the show and he was working, but like, you know, your big brother's Dan.
Well,
It's
I'm
like,
just I'm thinking like, were he and Jim Belushi like really good friends? Just like, ugh.
it's really funny. I don't think I included this, but Jim Belushi and Peter Aykroyd, when they did the Blues Brothers cartoon, they played their brothers' characters in the movie, in the show. Like, did the voiceover for it.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But yeah, I just wonder if they were just like, I don't know.
You know, we're just the weird redheaded stepchildren.
At least your brother died.
Oh God! Wow!
Hey, we just played a recording.
Yeah, that was a taping from a writer's room. While Nothing But Trouble is the only film that he would get a writing credit for, Peter would act in a bunch of his brother's films, including Dr. Detroit, Spies Like Us, Dragnet, and Coneheads. He created the TV show Sci Factor, Chronicles of the Paranormal, which aired 88 episodes over 4 seasons, starting in 1996.
Cool.
It was a Canadian TV show. Peter would get story by credit for Nothing But Trouble by recalling an event involving his brother.
Nice.
In 1978, Dan was traveling in upstate New York when he was pulled over for speeding in the middle of the night. Despite this, the cop took him to a judge and a small trial was held where Dan was fined $50.
Crazy.
After the trial, the judge asked Dan if he wanted a cup of tea, and Dan ended up staying for 4 hours.
Of course he did. Because that's just who he was. I mean, my God. He is just the most interesting dude.
Yeah.
You know, and we were saying about the movie that it would have been better if this was this incident.
Right.
But Aykroyd was on acid.
Yeah, like
And
he had just dropped acid and then got pulled over, and it was like, what is going on?
It's like his bizarre interpretation of the
Right.
events, which would be Nothing But Trouble.
Right.
You know, but it wouldn't have to necessarily be real, but it could be completely crazy.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
I don't
I
know.
think that's a great take on it.
Wish I was in the writer's room.
I don't. The funny thing is, I don't think Dan ever did any drugs.
No, I think he did.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure. No, he did. He definitely did back in the day. But I think after what happened with John, I don't think he did a meth.
Ooh, right.
You know, but if they were all doing coke and weed, at least weed. You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm sure he still smokes weed.
when they were writing the Ghostbusters thing, they all didn't they all go to smoke weed at
Proud. That sounds familiar.
somebody's beach house or something? And Ivan Reitman's daughter was like, it just smelled like dope all the time.
Yeah. So,
But he wasn't a big, it wasn't like John.
yeah, no, it
wasn't
wasn't.
doing
It wasn't an
speedballs,
issue. Yeah.
Or who knows? I mean, I wasn't there.
Yeah. Dan loved the idea, wanting to take the seed of that and make it into a monster movie.
Very cool.
He worked on the script for 6 months with a working title of Git.
I think that's the best.
Git.
I think it's the best.
It's so...
Get! You get! You get out of here, you get!
The title was later changed to Road to Ruin.
Not
which
better
is
than get.
Generic. Yeah, too generic. He based a lot of the monsters, like the giant mutant babies, on dreams he'd been having.
I would pay money to experience like an hour of his dreams.
Oh, God.
And then you would go insane.
I would go and say, yes. He based the town of Vulcanvania on Centralia, Pennsylvania, a town that had a coal mine fire break out underground in 1962, and the town was essentially abandoned due to toxic fumes that come up from the fire.
Nice.
Silent Hill is also based on Centralia. Ooh. And they did, for a long time, you could, for at least 30, 40 years, you could go to Centralia, but then the Pennsylvania government finally realized that people were getting hurt. So they literally blew up the road to get into town.
Good Lord.
So you can't get in. There's pictures of it. You can see it's just giant boulders and stuff.
Why didn't they do like a super cleanup or something?
They can't put the fire out. There's no way to get down there and put the fire out without people dying.
It's still burning today?
It is still burning today.
That is crazy.
50, 60 years later.
Good
Still
Lord.
burning today.
It's like the Springfield tire fire.
Technically, there's like 4 or 5 people that live there, but they're like paid by the government to like make sure it doesn't get worse. Or to let them know if it gets worse, I guess.
I got 6 more cancers today.
It's awful. It's weird. It's fascinating. If you ever have a chance, look up Centralia. It's fascinating.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm going to look it up today.
There's a bunch of good YouTube videos about it.
Nice. I know what my afternoon's going
Yeah,
to be.
because you could. I mean, for a long time, you could. I could be wrong on the date when they destroyed the road. But for a long time, you could just go in and, like, walk around. Because theoretically, you could be around for a while and it'd be fine.
Sure.
But you spent too long there, then the toxic fumes would essentially kill you.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice!
Start your timers.
So, happy with that draft, Dan set out to find a director. He offered it to John Hughes, who was interested in the story but only directed his own writing, so he ultimately passed.
Yeah, but I think he gave him a lot of help because he did get a special
He got
thanks.
he got a special thanks at the end. John Hughes and Dan Aykroyd were good friends, so like
Yeah.
it wouldn't surprise me if he called him up when he needed advice and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was Aykroyd? He's from Canada or Chicago?
Aykroyd's from Canada.
Oh, okay.
He's from Toronto.
He always seems like a Chicago boy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Toronto's essentially the Chicago of Canada.
Yeah, that's true. It is true.
I mean, Dan then offered it to John Landis, but he disliked the script and turned it down.
Yeah. Well, John Landis wasn't doing anything great at this point.
I think John Landis would have been great to direct this.
Yeah, he would have been 8 years prior. I think after the Twilight Zone debacle, he was never the same.
That's true. That is true.
He never hit the heights he did before.
Yeah, he got too scared.
I just think he lost it. You know,
I
whatever.
mean, I don't blame
was.
him. He essentially killed 3 people.
Yeah,
so,
2
I mean,
children.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're going to have. If you aren't a sociopath, you're going to have a lot of issues with that. A lot of damage, PTSD.
Dan then turned to Ivan Reitman, who had directed Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2, but he was busy on post on Kindergarten Cop and turned it down.
Man, if he would have gone to like Sam Raimi or the Coen brothers even at the time, because they were just starting out.
Yeah, they
You know, or found a horror. Sam Raimi, I think, would
Sam
have been
Raimi
perfect.
would have been great for this.
I think if Sam Raimi directed this film, then it would have been.
But at that point, I don't know, man, because when did Army of Darkness come out?
That was early '90s, I believe.
It was around the same time. I feel like I just don't know if Sam Raimi would have said yes.
No.
Yeah.
Regardless of that,
Right.
You know, my fantasy is that I think he would have been the perfect guy.
Yeah.
Because he's so good at horror comedy,
Yeah.
and given this script with a hard R and this cast, it would have been really interesting. And I think it would have been really interesting to see Chevy Chase directed by Sam Raimi.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
agree. And it would have had a much more distinctive visual style,
Yeah.
like camera wise, because the directing that Aykroyd did in this is pretty pedestrian. Like it's not very imaginative.
You can't blame him.
No, I mean he had 5 other hats going on. Like it, I mean,
It is so hard to just direct something, but it is really hard to direct and star in something.
yeah,
And
playing 2 different characters.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, it's like directing is so all-encompassing and difficult.
Yeah.
Even the guys that are really good at it and really good actors like Kevin Costner, they have a really hard time,
Yeah.
wearing both hats. And
Totally.
for somebody who's never done it before,
Yeah.
and not only has never done it before, but it's kind of a high concept thing, and you're acting in pounds of makeup
Yeah.
for both characters.
Yeah.
My God, I'm surprised the guy even survived.
I know. I agree. With time running out, Dan reluctantly agreed to direct the film himself, mostly to secure a production deal for the film, despite not having directed a feature film before. Dan never considered himself a director, which is part of the reason Nothing But Trouble is the only film that he's ever directed.
Good for him, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
a lot of people think that it was because Nothing But Trouble did so poorly, but he never wanted to direct.
no. And not everybody has to be everything.
No,
No. I mean, that's the thing. It's like some guys always wanted to direct. Some guys just want to be actors.
Yeah.
Or writers.
He wants to write and act and just have fun.
It makes more sense because if he's like a very mercurial guy,
Yeah.
he's very focused on the minutia, and he seems almost kind of solitary in what he does.
Yeah.
So I think directing was probably a big stretch for him socially too,
Oh, yeah. I think because I do think, yes, he's on the spectrum, and I do think he would have a hard time, like, telling somebody, like, you have to do it this way, or you have to, you know what I mean? Like,
He also seems like a people pleaser.
yeah.
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 And Chevy Chase also seems like the type of person who would extremely take advantage of a people pleaser.
Yes.
It's why narcissists are attracted to people pleasers.
Right.
Right. As we both know.
I'm very aware, Jim. I'm very aware.
Because you're a narcissist. No, you're not.
I was saying you were the narcissist, and I was
Wait,
the people pleaser.
I was the people pleaser.
No.
I was saying we dated narcissists,
Oh.
and they were attracted to us because of our people pleasing.
Yeah.
But my people pleasing days are over. As the
Yeah.
audience knows, I don't want to please any of you.
Yeah, I grew out of that. So Chevy Chase was cast as Chris Thorne, a financial publisher, as he says many, 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 many times in the movie.
He's a banker.
No, I'm a financial publisher. Yeah. The character of Chris Thorne was originally going to be played by Dan himself, along with the old judge, but Warner Brothers insisted that Chase play Thorne or no deal.
Honestly, better choice, because we've seen him play that part before in Great Outdoors and in She's Having a Baby, and he would have he could have played that part. I don't think Chevy Chase knew what this part was.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's a character isn't a cigar, Chevy.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Yeah, it was... but I totally could see... Dan Aykroyd would have been great in it, but I know that him playing against himself as the judge would have just made this so much harder.
Oh, my God.
And like, and on top of the fact that then he eventually had to direct it anyway, like it would have just been even more of a disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it'd be his Eddie Murphy thing, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Chase didn't particularly like the script for Nothing But Trouble, but wanted to work with Dan again and assumed they'd be able to improvise a lot of the dialogue.
Sure.
In fact, even before rewrites were done, Chase later said that he knew it was going to be the worst movie he ever made.
Yeah, well, he was wrong because Under the Rainbow is the worst movie he's ever made, and there's probably...
And then right after this, he did Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
Which is worse. You topped yourself a lot, buddy. This good for you, because this was not the worst movie you ever made.
No,
you were like, hold my Percodan, hold my Percocet, because I'm gonna make like 6 really awful movies in a row.
Awful.
I'm looking at you, Captain Robertsons.
Speaking of, Chase's last 2 films, Fletch Lives and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, 2 sequels, did okay at the box office, but received very mixed reviews, so he was eager to try to make something good again.
Well, because these were garbage sequels to great films.
Yeah. I still love Christmas Vacation,
Well, okay.
but it pales in comparison to the original movie.
Well, yeah, listen to our Christmas Vacation episode.
Yeah, we go very much into depth about that.
You'll see why I don't like it and why he likes it. But Fletch Lives was just an abomination, man. Fletch is one of Chase's greatest movies.
Yeah,
It's in the top 5.
Oh, yeah.
But Fletch Lives was such a lazy, gross sequel. All it did was it was like, oh, let's put Chevy Chase in more disguises. Let's take the substance out of it and make it just a goof.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Chase was like, fine, I just want to do my shtick. It seems like he just got lazy and decided to do lazy shtick, and you could just tell that this man did not want to be on set.
No. Almost all of his movies starting around 1988, you could just see him wanting to get off of set as fast as possible.
And you know what, Chevy? We kind of wanted you to get off set, okay? You were being a jerk.
We wanted you to never touch another set.
We loved you so much, and you just turned into such a lazy jerk.
Frittered it away.
Ah.
Yeah. In typical Chevy Chase fashion, everyone working on Nothing But Trouble hated working with him. Chase was verbally abusive to everyone on set. He tried to speak on Moore's behalf about her quote-unquote skimpy costume and stated that he had more worth than Aykroyd because Chase had the bigger paycheck.
What a dick.
I'm sure he was trying to make jokes, but like it's just mean-spirited and bad.
Those are mean-spirited gaslighting jokes. He you know, it's like, look at his eyes when he's saying these jokes. There's no humor in them.
No.
You know, he is a dick. He's a very... Look, the guy is completely insecure at this point. He desperately needs a hit.
Yeah.
And he knows this isn't going to be it.
Right.
So instead of just being like, you know what? Let's just have fun, see what happens, and I'm going to support my buddy, and I'm going to be in it for him. I think his attitude probably helped make this film bad. Because it's like, if Chase was more game, had some charm, and had a character, let's just be honest, he had no character in this.
No.
A cigar is not a character. And, you know, he tried to rely on his old shtick, but now he's pushing 50, and that kind of shtick just isn't flying.
Right.
It's really weird. The pairing between him and Demi Moore, there's no chemistry.
No.
She was great. Like, when she starts kissing him, and that part, like, I believed her.
Yeah.
I did not believe him.
No.
You know, because he's like, whoa, I'm surprised, you know.
She was like kissing a wooden post.
Exactly.
And it's really messed up that she had more chemistry with the 2 giant mutant babies than she did with Chevy Chase.
And she got to do the kiss talk this time, and he kept his mouth shut. He didn't say a word.
That's right. That's right.
Know? I just think he was lost, unhappy, and insecure, so he was lashing out, and the people just did not want to hear it.
The crew was furious at Chase's treatment of Aykroyd, with one crew member even threatening to drop a brick on Chase's head if he ever spoke to the director like that again.
Good for them, man.
And we'll talk more about Aykroyd and his directing later, but like the crew was 100% behind.
Because Aykroyd is a man of the people.
Yeah.
He was probably hanging out, having lunch with the Teamsters.
Yeah.
Talking about motorcycles and, you know, and he was much more comfortable with working class guys because that's how he grew up.
Right.
Than he was with the elite. He was never part of the elite, never wanted to be part of the elite. So, yeah, of course these guys were loyal because he was loyal to them. When Chase was just another asshole movie star.
And he was very receptive to them.
Yes.
Like he was willing to listen to their to be on a movie where the director's like, sure, give me your ideas.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we might not do all of them, but like, let's hear what you have to say.
Right. He's a collaborator.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as much as we talk about him being mercurial and being solitary, he was also an amazing collaborator. Mm-hmm. And when he was on a movie, he was always there. And say what you will, this is the difference between Chase and Aykroyd. Aykroyd's in a lot of bad movies, but he's never bad in those movies.
Right.
Chase is in a lot of bad movies. They're bad because of him.
Right, exactly. So during production, Chase would call up various co-stars at night after filming, apologizing for what he perceived to be stress behavior he felt he exhibited due to whatever he was going through personally at the time.
F you, man.
Yeah, it's like, dude, go to a therapist. Don't talk to me about this.
It's pure addict behavior. You act like shit, then you apologize profusely, and then you start doing the behavior again. This breaks my heart. I hate talking shit about Chevy Chase because I loved him so much.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so angry at him. If I didn't give a crap, if he was just some, crap actor from the beginning, then whatever.
Yeah.
But this guy broke my heart, man.
Yeah.
Like, I loved him so much, and he's one of the great sadness of my artistic love, of my...
Right.
talent crushes,
Oh, how the mighty have fallen.
So much. I mean, just becoming the antithesis of what he is. It's just crazy.
It's just sad.
Yeah.
It is very sad.
It's very sad. That's what it is. It's just sad. And so I just want to make it clear that all of this comes from a place of disappointment.
Right.
It's not. I don't hate him. I don't have any
No, because you
animosity.
love him.
Exactly.
And you wanted him to be better.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was so excited to see these guys back together again.
Yeah.
And Demi Moore. And
They did great. Yeah. This movie was the beginning of a string of stinkers that Chase was in, following it up with Memoirs of an Invisible Man in 1982 and Cops and Robertsons in 1994.
With Jack Palance. You are a cop at Robertson's.
I'm doing a one-handed push-up right now.
Yeah. I think that was another undercover thing where he had to.
Jack Palance was a cop that had to essentially take over Chevy Chase's house. I think.
With his family, and he was just a tough guy. Yeah,
not good. It was not good
because again, all the Chevy Chase charm was drained away at that point.
In total, all three movies would make only $34 million at the box office. Both Memoirs of an Invisible Man and Nothing But Trouble had budgets of over $40 million. So that was not good for his career.
That's another mistake. It's like, why did they need $45 million for this movie?
I'm guessing for this
sets.
movie, yeah. Well, I mean, they needed 40 and they ended up spending more, and we'll talk about that later. But it was just the production design, But we'll talk about it more. Dan Aykroyd was cast himself as Alvin J.P. Valkenheiser, the 106-year-old judge who rules Valkenvania, and Bobo, the severely deformed grandson of Alvin, who lives in Valkenvania's salvage yard.
Ugh, Bobo and Little Devil.
So weird. Aykroyd was set on playing the judge, but Bobo was a surprise. No one else wanted to sit in the makeup chair for an hour to get into character, so Dan ended up playing the weird mutant baby himself. Aykroyd would often direct while in character makeup, stating later that it was very stressful directing in heavy makeup.
Well, yeah. Plus, it's really hard to take somebody seriously when they're dressed up as Bobo.
It's so weird.
I'd just be looking at his belly.
In fact, he would end up being hospitalized for exhaustion for a brief period due to juggling too many jobs during production.
Wasn't drinking enough water.
Yeah, probably. Since this was his first time directing, Aykroyd gave the cast and crew a lot of latitude to come up with ideas or improvise dialogue. It was important to Aykroyd that the film felt like a group effort.
Nice.
This would later come to bite him in the ass, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the time, Aykroyd had been rotating between more serious movies and comedies. In 1989, he was in Driving Miss Daisy, which snagged him a Best Supporting Actor nomination, but he lost to Denzel Washington for Glory.
No shame in that.
No.
Denzel
Glory
was
is such
amazing.
a good movie.
Yeah.
It's such a good movie.
Yeah, with Matthew Broderick, I'm going to lead you into the war. That's his famous line from that.
Right.
I'm leading you into the war.
And he sounded just like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was actually a recording from the film.
That same year, Aykroyd was also in Ghostbusters 2, which we did a whole episode about, so listen to that.
Yeah, that was revelatory for me.
Yeah. In 1990, he was in 2 comedies, Loose Cannons, which we've also covered.
Yeah.
Which is such a guilty pleasure, such a weird movie, and has one of the most embarrassing scenes I've ever seen in a movie in it,
Yes.
which Jim had just did twice.
Gene Hackman?
Gene Hackman's so good. That was during our Hackman month. Oh,
Yeah.
Gene Hackman. I love Gene Hackman.
Man.
He was also had a cameo in the direct-to-video Masters of Menace about a motorcycle gang, which also included cameos from Jim Belushi, John Candy, and George Wendt.
This was Jim Belushi's girlfriend's movie at the time.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, this was the one that was this horrible movie that because we talked about this when for Canine, I think.
No. This isn't. You're thinking of something else. That's not this. This is about motorcycles.
Oh.
Masters of Menace is different. You're thinking about the weird sci-fi thing that he played that Jim Belushi played the principal in.
Right.
No, that was something
Oh,
else.
okay, because I was going to
something
say,
else.
I'm just wondering if these guys give him eternal crap for being in his girlfriend's movie.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure they do for the movie, that other movie. I am sure, but no, this. I'm pretty sure the only reason that Dan Aykroyd was in this was because it was about motorcycles, and
Right.
he loved motorcycles.
Weird.
Yeah, I've never seen it. It went straight to video, so
Yeah.
God knows you can probably find it on YouTube now.
Probably.
Yeah.
Let us know.
In 1991, along with Nothing But Trouble, he was in My Girl, which he almost missed out on due to re-edits to Nothing But Trouble. Yeah, which I'm glad he did. My Girl would gross $121.5 million from a $17 million budget, making it one of the most successful movies of the year.
That was the first movie that had a trigger warning.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because child psychologists
Yeah.
were extremely worried that kids were going to go want to see Home Alone, but then they see little...
Spoiler!
Yeah, spoiler alert for a million-year-old movie. The little McAllister boy gets stung to death by bees.
Oh, the bees! The bees!
So it was like, make sure to tell your kids that he's going to die from bees so your kids don't freak
Right.
the F out.
Right. It's
like,
going to be a sad thing. And
Why didn't he just Home Alone the bees, Mama?
Yeah. It was actually, My Girl was great. It was almost kind of a renaissance for Dan Aykroyd because it came out 9 months after Nothing But Trouble.
Yeah.
And Nothing But Trouble did not do well. And then My Girl was really good. And people were like, hey, Dan Aykroyd's back.
Jamie Lee Curtis is also excellent in that movie as the mortician's
I don't remember
assistant.
her that at all.
Yeah, so he's the single dad of,
Oh, yeah.
of
Okay.
the girl, Claire Chomsky or something Chomsky?
Something like that.
Noam Chomsky?
Klomsky
or something.
Klomsky?
She's
Yeah.
like still acting
She's
today.
great,
She's
yeah.
amazing. But he's her single father. He's a mortician, and then Jamie Lee Curtis's character like lives in this trailer, and she gets a job as like the makeup person for the mortuary.
Right.
And then she, becomes friends, and I think there's like a little romance between them, and then
It's interesting because that was the same year that Only the Lonely came out, which also had a mortician's assistant falling in love.
morticians were big.
It was apparently all about morticians in 1991.
It was the mortician boom of '91.
I need to see My Girl again. It's been a long time.
It's good.
I remember really liking
Yeah.
it, but
And I have to say, Macaulay Culkin's excellent playing the little boy, and it's very different than he was a good little actor.
Anna Klumsky.
Anna Klumsky,
That's her
thanks.
name. Yeah.
What a weird Klumsky.
Klumsky. Yeah. Following up Nothing But Trouble, Aykroyd would appear in 3 movies in 1992. Chaplin, playing movie producer Max Sennett, who gave Chaplin his first break, directed by Sir Richard Attenborough.
Oh, that movie was a mess.
Yeah, it didn't do well at the box office. It only made like $8 million, $12 million, something like that.
I saw it in the theater.
Which is funny because I thought it did way better than that, and it did not.
No, it was not a good movie. It was just basically like, oh, who was Charlie Chaplin effing?
Yeah.
Oh, there's Una.
Yeah.
When she
Yeah.
like 13,
She's 13,
when they started?
12 or 13, it was young.
And that was played by the woman from all the Resident Evil movies. That was
Mia
her first.
Jovovich?
Yep, that was
Oh,
her-
really?
that was-
I just didn't even really. God.
Mia Jovovich.
Jovovich.
But I think that was her first movie, and she was very young. And I think it was another one of those, like,
Yeah,
she was too young to be doing what she was doing.
probably.
And then, you just have...
And this was around the time when Robert Downey Jr. was really in the throes of his addictions and stuff.
Right, and was just annoying about his acting.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even that good in this movie.
Wait, we're going to do some acting exercises.
Shut up!
Shut up, Robert.
Just go do your heroin.
Let's go do more
Get away
cocaine.
from me.
man.
Go sleep on somebody's baby's crib or something in Malibu.
No, God, it was like a 9-year-old. It wasn't a crib.
Well, still.
That does not
that's
make it
much
better.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it
Okay,
better.
Adam.
He was high and climbed in naked. It was sad. Yeah. Dan Aykroyd was also in Sneakers, co-starring Robert Redford, Ben Kingsley, Mary McDonnell, River Phoenix, Sidney Poitier, and David Strathairn.
I love that movie.
Which was directed by Phil Alden Robinson, who did Field of Dreams and wrote some other stuff we've already covered that I don't remember.
Yeah, we just talked about him recently.
Yeah. That movie did really well at the box office. It made like $150 million off of like a $12 million budget or something.
I really enjoyed that movie. It was also a time where all of these movies were coming out where it was all these dudes that were like the Weather Underground, or all of these, they were like these quotey terrorist, eco-terrorist groups or whatever that in the 60s that were like bombing, buildings and stuff. And then somehow, they're older now and something happened or blah, blah, blah.
Well, it's like, now you run a security firm and you got to go test all the banks and see if they can get through or not. Yeah,
I love that movie, though. The team of Redford, Strathairn, because I think Strathairn was the blind guy, but he was really good at computers.
Yes.
And then River Phoenix was great, and Aykroyd was kind of like, I think he was one of the computer guys, or he was like the driver or something.
I have not seen it in a long time, but I remember really enjoying it.
My favorite shot of that movie is they're like doing stealth stuff, and Redford goes to jump over this railing and catches his foot and just eats ass. And it is so funny. And it's just like, just showing that he's too old to be doing this kind of stuff. So we definitely have to cover this.
Oh, yeah. Aykroyd would have another movie he wrote released in 1993 with Coneheads based on the SNL sketches. Sadly, it would not make its budget back.
Which is a shame, because out of the Saturday Night Live movies, it's one of the better ones.
It's really funny.
I mean, the daughter was great. Her weird relationship with Chris Farley.
Yeah,
he was the boyfriend.
The whole thing was weird.
And they had to go back to the planet. And
it was taking the sketches that could have been one-note jokes and made it into an actual movie.
Right, with a plot.
Yeah,
and
like it was good.
It's the opposite of Night at the Roxbury.
It's definitely a guilty pleasure.
It just came out 10 years too late.
Yeah, it definitely was much later than it should have been.
Everybody's like, Cone what's?
Yeah. John Candy was cast as Dennis Valkenheiser, the grandson of Alvin, who is Vulcanvania's chief of police, and Eldona Valkenheiser, the mute granddaughter of Alvin, and the fraternal twin sister of Dennis, who is an expert mechanic.
Oh, man, you're absolutely right. The movie should have been called Death or Eldonia.
Eldona.
Death or Eldona.
Death or Eldona. I think that would have been fantastic.
Yeah. Git or Death or Eldonia.
Git would have been really good, too. If it was a hard R, then Git would have been perfect.
Git, exclamation point.
Git. Yeah. While Aykroyd was searching for a director, Warner Brothers caught wind of the script and opted to secure funding, but they wanted John Candy to co-star. When Candy was seen entirely in character as Eldona for the first time, various crew members wolf whistled at him, and he said,
"Boy, the things I'll do for $1 million."
So just see him doing that.
He's delightful, man. He is just a delight.
I got it. He had a full character just from his face.
Yeah.
Just from the reactions in his face to the stuff that was going on. That is how good of an actor John Candy is.
He was 1,000 times better than Chevy Chase without saying a word.
Yeah.
And I believed him as a woman.
Totally.
There was no, that's the thing about Candy, man. He commits.
Totally, 100%.
And the Dennis character was like the only likable character in the entire effing movie, pretty much.
Yeah, he was the only one that was kind of like, should we really be doing this stuff? This seems wrong.
Well, yeah, after 1,000 murders. Could have done it maybe a little earlier, but okay.
Well, he was waiting for his opportunity and he found his way out, and he got out.
He did get out, and he got it.
But he was great. The characters are so different, but the same. He is just such a good character actor.
Amazing.
Just such a good actor.
Amazing.
As per usual, the cast and crew loved working with John Candy. He even gave them thank you gifts after the production was over. 1991 was a very busy year for Candy. He also appeared in an uncredited role in Career Opportunities for John Hughes.
Ugh.
Yeah, well, he was just the owner of the Target.
Well, not him.
He had a small part. I know. Again, Career Opportunities is one of those. I definitely have a very heavy nostalgia sheen. I haven't seen it in a long time.
I take it personally when horrible characters are named Jim. It reflects poorly on me.
Yeah, I understand that.
And that was one of the worst Jims.
Yeah. He was also in Only the Lonely, which we recently covered. And
if you haven't seen that movie, find it. Buy it. Put it in your collection.
Buy it. You can find it for like $8 or $9. Just find it. Only the Lonely is in my top 10 of my favorite movies of all time.
If you want to know why, listen to our Only the Lonely episode.
He was also in Delirious that year, about a soap opera writer who goes into his soap opera.
Yeah, we need to do a month of his high concept comedies like Delirious and Armed and Dangerous.
Who's Harry Crumb?
Who's Harry Crumb?
Yeah.
Because, again, I just want to see these movies knowing how great he is.
Right.
To see how he navigates these awful movies that I remember not liking.
God, if we cover all those, then we just need... I think there's only 2 more movies if we hasn't... well, that's not true. We haven't covered Blues Brothers yet. But,
well, we'll definitely do JFK, and we're definitely doing the Blues Brothers.
Yeah. Yeah, he was in a supporting role in JFK from Oliver Stone, which was the beginning of what would have been an amazing third act.
Hey, Jimbo, Daddy-O, what you gonna do down on the flip-flop? I ain't got no information for you, Jimbo. They gonna come after me. They gonna come after you. You better get the gumbo, gimbo, gambo, Jimbo.
He had another big hit in Cool Runnings in 1993.
You gotta say it right.
Cool
Runnings.
Sorry, I was saying it as John Candy. He was trying not to be offensive. Which was his last big hit, obviously, before he passed away.
Again, a guilty pleasure.
It's a fun movie. It's a feel-good movie.
Dougie Doug. Great in that movie.
Yeah.
Horrible accent.
There is we've covered John Candy a lot because we had a whole John Candy month, so I'm not going to go too much deeper into John Candy. But there is Ryan Gosling produced a movie that's being directed by Colin Hanks.
Oh, wow.
That is a documentary about John Candy. It's kicking off TIFF in Toronto.
The Toronto International Film Festival.
Yeah, this year in October, I think it is. He's kicking it off, but he's been making this movie for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And Ryan Gosling is a huge John Candy fan. So.
As he should be. Everybody should be.
For a long time, it was going to be called Cool Whip. Not Cool Whip. What's Orange Whip?
Orange
Whip. But the movie's actually called I Like Me, which is from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Listen to our Planes, Trains, and Automobiles episode.
We've covered so much John Candy.
Because we love him.
I love him so much.
He is one of my top 5 all-time favorite
agreed.
actors.
So good. So good. Demi Moore was cast as Diane Lightson, the lawyer that Chris falls for, I guess.
Yeah, none of that makes any sense. I don't understand that whole meet uncute that they had in the elevator. At first I was like, did he have the... None of it made any sense.
So he had the documents because he's this financial publisher. He was going to publish an article about this deal that was going on.
Okay, can I just point something out real quick? His financial publishing, his newsletter, was like a mimeograph that you get from some whacked out conspiracy theorist, who's going to mail it to you from his P.O. box. It wasn't like a magazine or anything. It was the most unimpressive thing I've ever seen. Here, take this. You smell it. I just mimeographed it.
I folded it in half.
Yeah.
But I think what they were trying to get across was that Chris Thorne had all the insider secrets. Mm-hmm. Like, that was the thing. People went to him with insider secrets, and that's what they tried to pass off the, I just bought all this stuff. I listened to you. And he's like, well, you should sell it. All that. But she saw some deal that was going on that was involved with her ex or something. And so she had to go to Atlantic City to essentially tell him off. And they did say, what were you going to do? Slap him in the face? And then where would you be then? What does it matter? But he agreed to it because he was a sad, pathetic, horny old man.
Yeah, he's a 50-year-old man who wants to have sex with a woman in her 20s.
Yeah. But yeah, the whole setup for it was just awful.
It was awful, and it set her up. Poor Demi Moore was not given a character, really.
No.
There was nothing there.
No,
I mean, I didn't understand her motivations. I didn't understand, why would she agree to go with a stranger none of it made any sense.
Well, she wanted his car.
Right.
But then he was like, the only way you're taking my car is if I drive you.
Yeah.
Which then immediately he went downstairs and was hungover and was like, just give her my car.
Yeah.
And then as soon as he saw her legs, he was like, all right, I'm going to drive.
I'm a pervert.
Yeah.
And then the whole tacked on thing with Negron and,
oh my God.
It's like
Bertilla. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, what? Crease!
Yeah.
Crease! Where are you going, Crease? We're coming with you, Crease!
But at least, hey, look, I was happy they were there because at least they were entertaining.
Well, Taylor Negron is a hoot.
Yeah.
And even though this character was one of the most annoying characters ever, somehow he has a magic.
Yeah.
That he can transcend the most annoying dialogue and character and still be entertaining.
It's true.
He was a gifted, one of the most underrated. I always say this. I know that I say this way too much. It's like genius.
Yeah.
But truly, truly, one of the most underrated comedic actors and artists.
Yeah.
You know, the guy was just a Renaissance man.
So John Candy actually suggested to Aykroyd that Meg Ryan be offered the role of Diane, as he worked with her on Armed and Dangerous in 1986 and enjoyed working with her.
She would have been great.
However, Ryan signed a commitment to star in Oliver Stone's The Doors, which was released 2 weeks after this film, and she declined the role. Yeah.
She probably should have. I don't know.
Yeah, lose-lose situation.
Well, The Doors was pretty good. She was miscast.
Yeah.
She wasn't ready for that part.
Due to the enormous box office success of Ghost, Aykroyd then offered the part to Demi Moore, who accepted.
Okay.
Moore was building her career in the 80s, appearing in St. Elmo's Fire, About Last Night, One Crazy Summer, The Seventh Sign, and We're No Angels.
Ugh, We're No Angels was so bad. That was Sean Penn and Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
Sean Penn's character was just the dumbest guy in the world. He was just like, what are we going to do? We're no angels.
We did cover One Crazy Summer, which she was great in.
Yes.
And The Seventh Sign is a weird guilty pleasure. It's one of those that was on TV all the time.
Is that the one where she's pregnant?
Yeah, she was. Yeah, and it's like opening up to the Antichrist or whatever. I do distinctly remember there's a bathtub scene where I'm pretty sure she's topless.
Well, she's very quiet and cries a lot in that movie.
Yeah, I just remember enjoying it because it was also about like I was still in Catholic school and it was about like hell coming to earth and all this stuff.
Hell's coming with me.
Yeah, it was not a good movie by any means, but yeah.
She does not have a. She's another one who's pretty talented, but just really hasn't had. Maybe A Few Good Men's pretty good.
Yeah.
She was good in that. G.I. Jane, because that was Ridley Scott.
I mean, I don't.
Ghost is fine.
I think she's been. I think she's good. I think she has a very narrow range, and I think when she hits that, she's really good.
Yeah, like Ghost.
Yeah. In fact, she would become a household name because of Ghost in 1990, which co-starred Patrick Swayze. It grossed $505 million at the box office, the highest-grossing film of the year, and at the time, the third highest-grossing film of all time.
Yeah, a lot of lonely people out there.
I had no idea that movie made that much money.
It was a juggernaut.
It was huge. And Ghost is great. I mean, I love Ghost.
Whoopi Goldberg, amazing
So
in Ghost.
good.
She got an Oscar nom.
She did.
Did she
No,
win?
she won an Oscar. Yeah.
She should have.
Supporting.
She was great.
Yeah, she was great. It was so good. Patrick Swayze was good. The whole concept was good. Like, it was a great movie.
Yep. Have we done Ghost?
Nope. Ooh. We will. Moore can most recently be seen in Landman, playing a recurring role.
Well, I'll be watching that soon.
Yeah. You finish up with all your Yellowstone universe.
I've been done with that for a while. And I did not go back to 1880. I just...
Oh, yeah. She was also in The Substance, where she earned her first Academy Award nomination for Best Actress, but lost to Mikey Madison for Honora.
I'm very curious to see that. I saw part of Honora. I'm kind of perplexed why she won Best Actress, but then again, I hate the Academy, so nothing makes sense to me.
It doesn't really matter to me, yeah.
I'm really curious to see The Substance. It's weird that it hasn't been...
Yeah, it hasn't been released on anything
anywhere.
yet. I'm a little surprised. Or maybe it was on something that the one service we don't have access to.
Stars. Yeah. Maybe it's on Stars or VOD. I don't know.
For the role, she did win a Critics' Choice Award, a Golden Globe, a SAG Award, and an AARP Movies for Grown-Ups Award.
See our write-up in the AARP magazine from a couple of months ago.
Yeah. Valerie Bromfield was cast as Miss Purdah, the trigger-happy grandniece of Alvin and the cousin of Dennis and Eldona.
She was another actor a solid character actor.
Yeah.
Always funny.
Dan Aykroyd offered the role of Miss Purdah to his fellow Second City colleague Catherine O'Hara, and she strongly considered the role as she wanted to reunite on a project with he and John Candy, but she had just finished 3 films in 1990 alone, including the highest-grossing film that year, Home Alone, and wanted to take a small break for the year from acting.
She would have been great, but Bromfield was fine.
Yeah. Bromfield started her career as a comedy partner to Dan Aykroyd at Second City Toronto. She actually performed comedy on the first episode of Saturday Night Live on October 11th, 1975, which I just watched recently and do not remember her.
Well, because they cut her way down. If you watch that Saturday Night Live movie...
The movie, yeah.
Was it called Saturday Night? I don't know.
I think so, yeah.
Something like that. The the funny thing is, she and Billy Crystal were both tasked to do
Right.
stand-up, but they cut it, and Crystal used to have this bit. It was this jungle bit where you get people from the audience, and he'd give one person a thing of chips, and they would crunch the chips every time he'd take a step. So it was like this whole bit that needed build-up and everything,
Right.
and there was no way he could cut it.
Right.
So he's just like, I can't do it.
Right, so he ended up not
I can't do
performing.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she was like, I'll do it.
Yeah. They cut them both down from 5 minutes to 2, and she was like, sure, why not?
Well, she also didn't have that epic bit that needed so
No,
many moving
no.
parts, you know.
Bromfield made her feature film debut in Mr. Mom in 1983, starring Michael Keaton and Terry Garr, with a script from John Hughes.
Very fun movie, and she was great in it.
Bromfield also appeared in Home is Where the Heart Is in 1987, written and directed by her brother Rex.
Okay.
She also appeared in Who's Harry Crumb with John Candy in 1989,
Nice.
which I kind of vaguely remember.
Who's Harry Crumb is the one where he was the detective.
The PI, yeah. Bromfield also appeared in Needful Things in 1993 from Stephen King.
She was great in that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
She was great. The whole town started coming apart and killing each other because of the devil.
She was a creative consultant on Head of the Class, getting credit for writing 2 episodes.
Okay.
She also appeared in 19 episodes of Grace Under Fire with, was that the one with Rhett Butler? Mm-hmm. Who has
Brett Butler.
Brett Butler, not Rhett Butler.
Frankly,
Brett
Scarlett, I don't give a damn about this sitcom.
It's amazing how 70 years later he appeared in a sitcom.
About Brett Butler, yes.
Brett Butler, who has disappeared completely.
weird.
Don't know what happened to her. Bromfield also wrote 189 episodes of The Rosie O'Donnell Show.
Okay, well, nobody's perfect. Was that her talk show?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
She was the one that wrote that she had that Rosie O'Donnell is a crush on Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and put those cushy balls, throw them at people. That's all I remember. She had those like balls that she would like.
I just remember
Flicking
back in the day Donald Trump being really mad at her about stuff.
And Howard Stern.
Yeah, just mad.
I don't know.
Her last credit was in 2008 for Bud playing the mother. She appears to be retired now.
All right, well, come back, baby. We love you. You're an
Yeah.
amazing actor.
Taylor Negron was cast as Fausto Squirnurizu.
Sure.
I didn't realize how hard it was to pronounce the name until I wrote it down.
Now you feel bad about making fun of poor
The
Judge.
yeah, Valkenheiser.
Vulcanheiser.
He played the wealthy Brazilian, or as he was called in the movie, a Brazilianaire.
That was kind of funny.
Yeah, that was one of the funnier lines. Negron, son of Puerto Rican parents, started doing stand-up in high school, performing at the Comedy Store. His feature film debut was in Young Doctors in Love in 1982, directed by Garrett Marshall, starring Sean Young, Michael McKean, Harry Dean Stanton, and Dabney Coleman.
Yeah, that was like a soap opera takeoff, I believe.
It was a spoof, yeah. Everybody knows him as the pizza guy from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which started a series of cameos like Easy Money in 1983 with Rodney Dangerfield.
I get no respect at all.
Johnny Dangerously in 1984 with an uncredited delivery man role.
I got your delivery right here.
The only thing I remember from that movie was Joe Piscopo being hung up by his collar on a thing, and then literally the first time I ever remember an after credit scene, and him still going like, "You just wait,
Give me that over here."
Yeah.
And he had that really long gun.
Yeah,
To get you Johnny
yeah.
Dangerously.
That's all I remember about that.
It was the last thing that Piscopo was funny in before he bulked up. The steroids
Right,
took
became
his sense of
weird.
humor.
Yeah. Negron was in Better Off Dead in 1985 as the mailman.
Oh, he was so
So
great.
good, so funny.
He was the one that brought the kid the like X-rays something.
Yeah,
And he's like, "Oh, what do you?"
Yeah, it was to build the space shuttle or whatever.
Something, yeah.
But he was like teasing him about what it was. Yeah.
But he was also like, "Do you mind if I ask out your girlfriend?" Everybody was seeing if he could ask out the girlfriend.
Listen to our Better Off Dead episode. We did cover that.
Please do.
He was also in One Crazy Summer in 1986 as Taylor, the gas station attendant.
Listen to our One Crazy Summer episode. That has Demi Moore.
Love Savage Steve Holland so much.
Me too.
And also in How I Got Into College, also by Savage Steve Holland, which I did not realize. But he played the mailman, reprising his role from Better Off Dead.
Yeah, he brought the college acceptance, I think.
Yeah.
It was that starred Daphne Zuniga.
Yes.
And I just remember, the thing I remember is there also, and then there was it also starred the kid that looks so much like Rob, the guy from Northern Exposure, Rob something. But anyway,
yeah.
I always get those two confused. But the only thing I remember about that movie is she's in her college interview, and she's like freaks up, like whips her top off or something because she thinks like it's such a funny movie, and it's a really good movie about the anxiety of getting into college.
Oh, okay. I've literally never seen it. I need to watch it.
Well, as a savage Steve Holland fan.
Yeah, I know. His most memorable role, or biggest role, was in The Last Boy Scout in 1991. Negron would make many appearances on TV, including
Hill Street Blues, That's So Raven, So Little Time, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, The Ben Stiller Show, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Reno 911, Friends, My Wife and Kids, Seinfeld, Zoe 101, ER, Party of Five, and Falcon Crest.
In 2008, he wrote The Unbearable Lightness of Being Taylor Negron, a fusion of story and song, directed by opera director David Schweitzer and co-starring singer-songwriter Logan Heftel.
Very sorry I missed that. I would have loved to see that.
The show debuted to critical acclaim in the Green Room at the Edinburgh Comedy Festival. Negron was an accomplished painter whose artwork has been featured in solo exhibitions at venues such as Los Angeles' Laemmle Royal Theater and the Hotel de Ville Lifestyle.
Nice.
Yeah.
He was just a Renaissance guy.
Yeah, he had so many interests.
And also a guy that didn't really give an S about fame or fortune. He just liked to work. He could have done a lot more if he wanted to. But I think he almost did these cameo things as a favor. I don't think he even really was like that.
Yeah.
You know, he was an really interesting dude.
He's a fascinating guy. He was diagnosed with liver cancer in 2008. And even then, he still worked on 26 more projects.
God damn, that guy.
On January 10th, 2015, he died at his home in Los Angeles at the age of 57.
Heartbreaking. I remember hearing about that, and it was heartbreaking. That guy was such an unsung hero.
Yeah.
And such an amazing character actor and all-around artist. And for those who were Taylor heads, you know. Negronis, thank you. That's so much better. It was really too bad. And it was really too bad he never had he would have been perfect with like sitcoms and like having his own show or something. But I think you're right at the end of the day. I think he just kind of did his career the way he wanted to. Yeah. It didn't seem like he wanted to be bogged down with anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. Look, I'm just speculating, but he just seemed like a very interesting guy that kind of navigated his way through Hollywood on his own terms.
Yeah. Bertilla Damas was cast as Ronalda Squirnuzu, the sister of Fausto.
Yes.
Damas was Cuban-born and grew up in Miami. She studied under Lee Strasberg until his death.
She killed him. Her lack of talent killed him.
Which I didn't mention this about Taylor Negron, but he actually, for a long time, was Lee Strasberg's personal assistant.
Sure.
Like when he was in like high school and beginnings of college, it was just like, oh, okay. Like it's weird.
Yeah.
She started studying under Stella Adler after Lee Strasberg died.
Yeah, should have studied some more. I'm just teasing.
Nothing But Trouble was her feature film debut. She did appear in Fires Within the same year, starring Jimmy Smits and Vincent D'Onofrio, but had more success in TV.
Fires Within, I remember that.
She appeared in
Dave's World, The John Larroquette Show, Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, Thunder Alley, NYPD Blue, The King of the Hill, Profiler, Star Trek, Voyager, ER, Family Law, The Division, Crossing Jordan, Bones, Dexter, Grimm, Shameless, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Rookie, and NCIS.
Yeah, she played Santiago's mom in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah, she looked
for a couple episodes.
Just like Santiago when she was young.
Yeah.
It was almost like, is she really her mom?
She also had countless international Spanish projects. Plus, she apparently was a very popular singer in Spanish-speaking countries.
Awesome.
Damas has served on the SAG Board of Directors and on the SAG-AFTRA Board. Since 2010, she has been the SAG-AFTRA National Chair of the Ethnic Employment Opportunities Committee.
That's amazing. I was just joking about her being a bad actor. It's just a bad movie. But she did, I mean, look, she kept right up there with Taylor Negron, and that is not easy to do. And especially in her film debut, you got to give her credit. And she was heads and tails funnier than stupid Chevy Chase.
Yeah, that's very true. Raymond J. Barry was cast as FBI agent Mark. Barry started his career on stage, appearing in more than 75 plays before being cast in his first feature. His feature film debut was in Between the Lines in 1977, directed by Joan Micklin Silver, who went on to direct Loverboy in 1989.
Loverboy.
Listen to our Loverboy episode.
Don't watch the movie. Listen to our show.
Listen to the show. In 1980, he appeared in the Christmas horror movie Christmas Evil.
Nice.
Is a guilty pleasure.
Oh, yeah.
Other notable films include
Year of the Dragon, Cop, Out of Bounds, Born on the 4th of July, K2, Falling Down, Cool Runnings, The Ref, Sudden Death, and Dead Man Walking.
I always will remember him from Falling Down. That is the movie that I don't remember what he plays, but whenever I see his face, I think of Falling Down.
It's Justified.
Oh, right. In 2006, he appeared in Steel City and won an Independent Spirit Award for Best Supporting Male.
He's such a solid character actor.
So great. In 2007, he played Pa Cox in Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox Story.
The wrong son died.
Which also is what I think of when I see him. Is this that look of him yelling at what's his name? The guy who played the lead.
I was going to say Chester Hatfield.
No, it's
John C. Reilly?
John C. Reilly. Of him yelling at John C. Reilly, who's supposed to be like 10, but he's still playing like it's him. Like him yelling at him.
The wrong boy died.
Barry also appeared in a bunch of TV, but most notably played Jack Shephard's grandfather in one episode of Lost.
Yeah, well, to me, he was so good playing Timothy Oliphant's dad.
Yeah, he had a recurring role on Justified, and he was in the third season of Gotham. I've never seen Justified, but I love Lost, so every time it comes up, I have to mention it.
I don't recognize him from Gotham, but in Justified, he is, because Raylan's father, Raylan Gibbons, played by Timothy Oliphant, his dad is a piece of shit. He's a criminal, and it's such a great relationship between the two of them, such a hate relationship, kind of.
Nice.
But the evolution of it throughout the show, he was just so good as the dick dad, and as a person that had a dick dad, very well done. I'm a connoisseur of dick dad parts, and I'll tell you who's a good dick and who's a bad dick, and he was a very good dick.
Wow, it's a lot of dick.
Yes, Dick Dads. Listen to my sister podcast.
Barry can most recently be seen in Filthy Animals, an independent movie, which is available on Hoopla if you have a library card.
Yeah, it's based on the movie within a movie in Home Alone. You filthy animal.
It's actually, the funny thing is that's actually not terribly far off, because it's about a home invasion on Christmas Eve, and he gets kidnapped by these two younger guys. Or kidnapped. Like, he's tied up in his house.
All right.
But
held hostage?
He did. Thank you. That's what the words I was looking for. But he filmed at the age of 85, and technically he's still working.
He's great. He's great. And he's really great at playing a jerk. Like, he's one of those guys that can play stern dad or granddad pretty bad.
Oh, yeah. Brian Doyle Murray was cast as FBI agent Brian.
Blink and you miss him.
Yeah. All the Barry and then the guy we're about to talk to next. I mean, they had credit in the opening credits, but like literally they're in the movie for like 2 minutes.
There weren't very many people in it. It's like Dan Aykroyd in 75 parts and then everybody else.
Yeah. Murray is the brother of Bill and Joel Murray. He first appeared in Fuzz in 1972, starring Burt Reynolds, Yul Brynner, Raquel Welch, Tom Skerritt, and Jack Weston, based on the Ed McBain novel.
Such a weird movie. I barely remember it. I just remember Yul Brynner. I always loved to have him in the movies because he was very, yes, I'm a criminal, Mr. Burt Reynolds.
I just love Ed McBain because of The Simpsons.
Yeah. McBain!
Yeah. He co-wrote and appeared in Caddyshack in 1980. Murray's had a long career, and he's literally in this movie for about 3 minutes with almost no lines, so go listen to our National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation episode for more on Brian Doyle Murray.
Yes, he is so great. He is like just a Chicago boy.
Yeah.
And I loved him in Wayne's World, and he just always brings it. He brings it 100%.
He's so good. He's
great on Saturday Night Live. Just a really solid performer, solid sketch guy, and a good writer.
Yeah. John Wesley was cast as Sam. He was the other third FBI agent, who apparently they decided not to call FBI agent Sam. Wesley's first feature was Hang 'em High in 1968 with Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
His first main role was as Frankie in Missing in Action 2, The Beginning, starring Chuck Norris in 1985.
That's right. I didn't kick him in the nuts because he was a POW, but I kicked other guys in the nuts.
He also played Mr. Jim for 3 seasons on the sitcom Martin.
Yep. He was a good Jim.
He was a good Mr. Jim.
Yeah.
Sadly, he died on September 7th, 2019 from complications of multiple myeloma 5 weeks after his 72nd birthday.
That's a shame. He was a very solid character actor.
Yeah.
I always liked him.
Daniel Baldwin was cast as dealer number 1. Daniel is the second oldest Baldwin brother and the second best.
Sure. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you see, what was it? Oh my God! On the
yeah,
John
yeah.
Oliver show,
Yeah.
Billy Baldwin's one-man show.
Was that Billy?
I think no. It's whoever the one was from Usual Suspects. That's not Billy. Billy was the one. So many frickin' Baldwins, man.
Yeah.
But this is the ultra-religious weirdo Baldwin.
He's. I met him. I've gone to church once in the last 20 years, and he was there.
He's at every church.
He was really nice, but I was just like
Stephen Baldwin.
Stephen, that's it. He was just like, dude. Like that whole clip of him playing the one-man show, religious show was so awful.
Yoosh.
So awful. Definitely not the best Baldwin.
No. You know who's the best Baldwin? Adam Baldwin. And he's not even a Baldwin.
Correct. So Daniel Baldwin is best known for playing the role of Detective Bo Felton in the NBC TV series Homicide: Life on the Street.
He will always get props from me for being in that show. And he was really good on that show.
Yeah.
Because everybody was. It was Barry Levinson. You could not be bad on that show.
Right. He also, quote-unquote, starred in Harley Davidson: The Marlboro Man in 1991 as one of the future robot hitmen.
Oh, in his leather trench coat. Listen to our Harley Davidson: The Marlboro Man show.
Yeah, we talk a lot more about Daniel Baldwin, and I'm not going to go into any more to him.
Anybody's ever talked about Daniel Baldwin in the last 15 years. He had it tough, though, man. He had some substance issues. And,
yeah.
You know, he had his thing. He was perfect for this part because he was so obnoxious.
Yeah.
And he's just basically doing a really bad De Niro impersonation with his face. Man, what are you going to do, bitch?
Yeah.
And I was really glad that he got killed. But in the movie.
Yeah.
We all were.
Through the old bone crusher.
He was a jerk. But yeah, I mean, he was perfectly cast.
Yeah.
He was great at playing jerks.
Yeah, he was. Peter Aykroyd makes a cameo in the film as Doorman Mike.
Doorman Mike. Hey.
Hey. Dan and Peter's father, P.H. Aykroyd, and Dan's daughter, Danielle, appear as porch people alongside producer Robert K. Weiss and Dan's father-in-law, Earl Dixon.
Nice.
There's that, tracking shot where they slide by. And also had one of Dan's really good friends, Robert Kruk or something. But it's mostly his family.
Yeah. It's very deliverancy.
Yeah. Rap group Digital Underground has a minor role featuring Tupac Shakur's feature film debut.
Yeah, baby. To the hump.
So Tupac Shakur needs to thank Dan Aykroyd for his film career.
Tupac Shakur looks like he wandered in from some parochial school. He looks like such a fresh-faced, sweet young boy in this.
He's so young. He was only 19 or something.
Well, you could tell he's all smiles and he's wearing...
Maybe 20?
He was really young.
You know what's crazy is that he was in this in 1990, or this movie came out in 1991. It was his first movie.
Yeah.
And less than 5 years later, he was dead.
Yeah.
His entire career was in 5 years.
To the Humpty Hump.
Yeah.
To the Humpty
Because
Hump.
when Digital Underground started fading, the shtick got thin. Chuck G was like, Tupac Shakur's gonna be big, and then he produced essentially his first album and the first single that he had.
I got a soft spot for Digital Underground. It was just that awful 90s rap, that section,
kind of weird funk
where they
rap thing.
but it was also trying to get away from the gangsta stuff and be more mainstream, more for everybody, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But they were kind of this homogenous, unthreatening group. And they were great, man. I love Humpty Hump. I love a lot of their songs. And it was I remember watching this movie, and as soon as they showed up, I'm like, "What?
What is going on?
What is the Digital Underground doing?" That's when I was just flabbergasted. I had no idea what this movie was. It just lost me.
Yeah, that was the third time I turned. It was like, this is where it gets weird.
And then I also love the fact that they say, bring in your instruments if you're playing it out. Let's see what you play. And then he gets on and then they all become friends, which I kind of love. But it was great to see Aykroyd playing. I think Aykroyd just cast him because he wanted to play with them.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, yes. And he was so good.
So good.
So good. So production began on May 7th, 1990 in Los Angeles, California under the title Trick House.
Even a better. That's great. Trick House. Those work.
Trick House is good. Although it doesn't, I don't feel like it encompasses what the movie is, but it's better than...
Nothing But Trouble? Does that encompass what the movie is?
No. 2 months later, on July 12th, the title was changed to Vulcanvania, and a release date was scheduled for Christmas 1990.
Vulcanvania is also an extremely good title.
I agree.
Makes me interested. It's like Transylvania, 65000.
Yeah, it's like, oh, yeah. The Vulcanheiser Mansion, Town Hall, and other environments were constructed on 2 sound stages at Warner Brothers Studios.
They're very good looking.
One of the set pieces, dubbed Autohenge, was a garden constructed of scrap metal. Designer William Sandell was inspired by his previous experience as a kinetic sculptor.
You can see that.
The production designers acquired props and decorations from...
every prop resource in town.
As well as Aykroyd's personal collection, including all of the police badges that revolve around when the judge first appears.
Yeah, he is like a police fetish. Old stuff, like old cop cars.
Yeah. The Bone Stripper ride was a used roller coaster bought for $15,000 and redesigned for the movie to go out of the back of the mansion and into the metal teeth of the Bone Stripper itself.
Yeah, whatever happened to the blood in the sinew? It all just kind of evaporated. There was no blood on the bones.
It got collected in bottles, and then the judge drank it. That's how he stayed alive.
With his penis nose?
Yes. The production designer told Aykroyd about a restaurant his grandpa took him to that gives your food from a model train on the table, and Aykroyd absolutely loved it.
Yeah, of course, because it's a great little thing.
They spent $25,000 to remove a part of the table, replaced with the food train of condiments.
How? How did that cost $25,000?
I don't know, man. As Aykroyd was keen to keep everyone's ideas coming, the budget for the film would end up going $5 million over budget to $45 million.
Yeah.
Aykroyd had trouble settling on the ending, which was written and rewritten during the shoot. Eventually, they settled on Chase's character learning through the television that Vulcanheiser survived the destruction of Vulcanvania and leaving a Chase-shaped hole in the wall.
Well, it wasn't just that he survived. He was coming to live with him.
He was coming to live in his house.
With his son-in-law.
Yeah. The crew were dissatisfied with the ending, but it was the best they could come up with.
I don't believe that's true. Because that was the worst. We both looked at each other and
it was like, oh, this movie's over. All right. Yeah. It was after Aykroyd screened his director's cut for Warner Brothers that the executive meddling kicked in.
We better fix this.
Apparently they had been... during production, they had called him up because they kept spending more money. And they were like, you need to control it. But nobody ever actually bothered to stop him.
Sure.
They just kept saying, you need to get better control. So then after they saw the cut, they considered the film a mess and pressured Aykroyd to tone down the cartoonish violence to avoid an R rating, which in turn caused the release date to be pushed back from Christmas 1990 to February of 1991.
This is why executives are idiots, because every single time that they make the decision to get it from an R to a PG or PG-13, it ruins the film.
Yeah.
You cut the balls out of the film.
Yeah.
And it just becomes this milquetoast mess, that has no teeth, and it's just like, well, what is it?
At this time, Warner Brothers changed the film's title to Nothing But Trouble. On December 20th, Dan Aykroyd stated in a press release that he would always think of the film as Vulcanvania.
Good for him.
Yeah.
That's how I'm going to think of it, too. Welcome to our Vulcanvania show.
Vulcanvania. Roger Ebert famously hated the movie so much that he refused to write a review for it after giving it one of his most emphatic
thumbs down
reviews ever on Siskel and Ebert. On the show, Ebert said that when he went to a weeknight showing of the film and the theater was almost abandoned, except for him, a few lone adults, and several teenagers who were making loud, rude comments at the screen, he famously went over to the teens and asked them to be even louder so he didn't have to listen to the terrible movie anymore.
Bullshit. There's no way that fat piece of ass is going up to teens. They would destroy him.
So,
excuse me, could you... What is it, Tubbo? They just throw it.
Right.
Hey, man, it was the 80s. People were not nice back then.
Yeah.
They did not respect people.
Well, this was 1991.
Oh, then totally different. Then they were extremely respectful.
They were very respectful.
He never went up to teenagers.
No, he didn't.
Way.
He just hated the movie.
And first, he didn't go to Liar! You're a liar!
The movie would only gross less than $8.5 million against a $45 million budget. There's a story that Dan Aykroyd sent personal letters of apology to the cast after the failure of the film, but that has been disputed by other cast members, saying they never received one, so,
Well, why? No, I mean, F that. It's just...
I think Dan Aykroyd took it personally. I think that he thought... because they were having such a good time making it, that when it didn't do well, he took it personally, and
Well, everybody but Chevy Chase was having a good time making it. Apparently.
Well, yeah.
You can't have a successful comedic movie if your star is checked out.
Yeah. It was. I know that Dan Aykroyd is good friends with Chevy Chase, and when he asked him to do it, it's just like, man, you got to take a step back, because it's going to ruin your movie.
Either. Look, if you're going to do something for your friend, you got to be 100% in it.
Yeah.
If you're going to go down...
give it all, man.
You're going to go down crashing together.
Yeah.
And if you check out and you give this charmless, D-level, bare minimum performance that he gives in this, because there's nothing likable about Chevy Chase in this movie.
No.
He's got no empathy. It's a very uneven performance. There's no real growth to him.
No, there's none.
The whole romance between he and Demi Moore is so forced and manufactured, and they have no chemistry, even though she tries so hard.
She does.
And then poor Demi Moore. She just did not know what to do in this movie.
No.
Her performance is so bizarre and so all over the place. And at one moment, it's this wide-eyed, slapsticky craziness. And then the other, she's being a baby with Bobo and beep bop. And then, the next thing, she's this adult, I just think that she never got a handle on what she was supposed to be.
Right.
And that's not her fault.
No.
It's much like Under the Rainbow with Carrie Fisher. There was just no definition to the role. It was girl part is basically what it was.
I think part of the issue was that when Dan Aykroyd wrote Ghostbusters, they wrote the girl part in that, and it was played by Sigourney Weaver, who's incredible,
right,
and did a lot with a little,
yeah.
And Demi Moore just was not that.
Well, I also think that if I remember correctly, Sigourney Weaver helped make that part bigger. And more, she worked with them to make it
to make it more fleshed
believable.
out.
Make her more of a three-dimensional character rather than just girl part. But this is definite girl part, and because her character really is just the impetus.
Yeah.
And then kind of the foil for Chevy Chase. There's really nothing
sort of. For
her.
Yeah.
There's no stakes. It's just...
she's just kind of the damsel in distress.
The whole bit that starts this with them running the stop sign, and then Chevy Chase is a 50-year-old man getting goaded into running away from the police like a 13-year-old drunken asshole.
Chicken?
Oh, my God. Honestly.
Yeah.
It's just... it was so stupid. And the fact that he just kept running from the cops, and and even when he was running from the cops, and he finally gets pulled over, John Candy's character's like, I'm not going to tell him about
the
running
other
away.
stuff.
I'm just going to do the stop sign. He's so nice about it.
Yeah.
And Chevy Chase is such an insufferable asshole.
Yeah.
Such an entitled dick. And not in a charming way or a fun Chevy Chase way, just in an acerbic, unlikable way.
Right.
And then you got Taylor Negron and Bertilla Damas squawking in the back like a couple of,
that was the
Puerto Rican peacocks.
After dinner, one of the funniest scenes when they were like, we got to get out of here. And then they get stopped, and Taylor Negron's like, all right, here we go. And they just jump out the window.
Well, that was the thing. He's like, okay, I can't do this.
Yeah, it was literally like, I'm done in this movie. Thank you.
I feel like that was like... they had yelled cut, and he's like, I just can't do this.
I can
this movie.
Imagine Taylor Negron walking up to Dan Aykroyd and being like, yeah, I'm going to go do another movie, so we're just going to end my scene like this, and then I'm going to leave. Okay.
Well, they just disappear. And then, all three of them, John Candy's male character, and then the two of them just disappear for like a third of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
And they come back for a tagline.
Yeah.
And it's, you really feel the absence of Candy.
Yeah.
And the absence of their characters because they're very energetic and kinetic. And you can't, and nobody gives a crap about about Chevy Chase just rolling around and meandering his way through this thing with absolutely no investment or anything.
Yeah. It was really disappointing. And it also, again, shows, I think, Chevy Chase's character or personal character arc is that when he had his own TV show, like, he disparages the movie constantly.
Sure.
But then when this movie was finally released on Blu-ray in like 2010 or something, and he did an interview, an audio interview. He wouldn't be on camera, but he did an audio interview for it. And all he could do was talk about how genius Dan Aykroyd was. And I think he's realized how many bridges he had burned through his career.
Yeah. And people that really liked him and people that gave him a chance.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And it's, again, he should have been done even before this movie.
Yeah.
But they continued to let him star in movies for another decade.
If he had a harsh reality wake-up where people weren't going to cast him anything, and he had like 4 or 5 years off, he could have come back and done something else. You know, started on smaller movies and done some supporting roles.
Well, that's kind of what he did with Community.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, he came back.
But even then, he kind of effed that up. So.
Of course he did, because the saddest thing in the world is when a comedian stops being able to laugh at themselves and takes themselves too seriously. Then it's over. Then you're not funny anymore. Then you're just this, you should treat me with respect because I was on Saturday Night Live. And it's like, well, yeah, but you're not doing any good work now.
Yeah, what have you done for me lately?
Yeah, and so he was given the gift of Community, which
he was great on.
Because Harmon wrote to all of his strengths.
Yeah.
He just basically wrote Chevy Chase.
Right.
You know, like, I don't know if Chevy Chase is racist or any of that stuff. I'm not going to, posit that.
Yeah.
But his character was extremely acerbic.
Yeah.
To the point I did a rewatch of Community, and sometimes it's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Pierce is evil.
Right.
But somehow he could take it to that part where you hate him. And then somehow bring it back and you feel bad for him because you know he's acting out because he's an unhappy dude. I mean, it was basically like watching Chevy Chase's therapy.
Right.
Every week on Community. And then, he blew it because people were teasing him and making fun of him. And he does not have a sense of humor about himself. And he wasn't getting the attention that he thought that he deserved. But, the truth is, buddy, you're a washed up dude that coasted on your charm and looks for your entire career. You were a hungry, decent, good comedic actor, Saturday Night Live in the 70s, when you were doing great work and you were vulnerable and you were likable, but you blew all that, buddy.
Yeah. He definitely needed a reality check.
Yeah, and look, this is coming from one of your biggest fans, Chevy.
Yeah.
The guy who loved you and worshipped you as a kid, and then you just gradually pissed that all away, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one.
I really wish that Dan Aykroyd, if he's listening, recut this movie to what you wanted it to be. I know the footage is out there. I know it's there.
It would be great to see his vision of this, and even if they just use like maquettes and stuff.
Yeah, just something that would be to give it a little more what he had in mind,
like they did with the Alien 3.
Yeah,
the quadrology. They kind of put together all of the filmmakers' visions of the movies. They weren't finished scenes and stuff, but you got to see what they were going for. That's the bummer, is that Dan Aykroyd just seemed... I put him in the same category as Candy, and I think probably because they're Canadian. Mm-hmm. They have empathy and hearts, and they're good people.
Yes.
But he's the same thing, He's a guy that seems fiercely loyal to those that he loves and would do anything for them, and he has such a unique mind and perspective that I think it's very difficult for him to get what he sees in his mind on screen, whether he's writing it or directing it,
Yeah.
And I think, he was set up to fail by him directing this, and, all of the pitfalls and the obstacles in front of him. It's sad. This is the saddest of the June Dooms.
Yeah.
Because it really did have potential.
Yeah.
Hot to Trot is just a dumb kind of fun movie that is innocuous and doesn't,
It's not. It doesn't require a lot from you.
No,
but it's fun.
And it's not like super racist like Under the Rainbow. And Under the Rainbow is an example of, studio system completely destroying a movie.
Right.
When you make movie by committee, this is what you get.
Yeah.
But I think this movie, to me, was stolen from Dan Aykroyd.
Agreed.
Unfortunately.
All right, we'll be back next week and have our stepdad show, talk about the fun stuff we've been watching and playing.
Yeah. Do a little
throughout the month.
Little post-mortem on our
talk
Doom Jooms.
Talk a little bit more about our sad, depressing Doom movies.
Oh, baby. You people are sick, wicked, funky, misanthropic, codependent, animalistic, and I won't have my sister, who was once the queen of the Mardi Gras, sitting at the table with pickle shooting train. This was the end of but again, it's, I think with people like Dan Aykroyd,
other notable
we now return you to your regularly scheduled programming, L.A. Law, already in progress.